Hello everyone and welcome. Do you have any UFOs from 2023? Unfinished objects. I have a few UFOs on my shelf. This is one of them. It was a fabric collage that I almost completed. I don't know, I must have got distracted and jumped to something else, but I do want to complete it because I have an idea of how I might use it next year. And so I thought I would bring you along with me with this one. And if you have UFOs, let's get them done. I'll make a playlist of UFOs, and let's see if we can't finish some of them in our shelf. We can dedicate some time every week to just working on one of our UFOs, unfinished objects. Okay, like I said, this was a collage. I have a piece of kind of designer curtain fabric in the back, a very light weaved, almost burlap looking fabric, or heavy linen looking fabric. This was from a scarf, very light weaved, of course, some laces, some odds and end pieces here. These were vintage squares that I found at a garage sale. Her grandmother was a quilter, and she had cut these little 1-inch squares up years and years ago. And so I utilized some of those and some of my vintage buttons as well. I have done some stitching, but I wanted to do quite a bit more on this. I wanted to make it pretty heavily stitched, as well as these objects that are on here, just using some of this stuff. And as you can see, it's a mixture of a little bit of everything, and I have done some stitching here, you know, some little flowers up this piece of ribbon, some stitching here, a little bit of stitching through there, but that's about it. That's where I got, and then it got put on the shelf, and I haven't finished it. So today I'm going to start. I just want to put some black stitching on this fabric here, so I'm going to start there. And this piece is curved, and I think I'll just follow the line of that curve on this side and get over here. So what kind of things have you stuck on your UFO shelf, and why do you think we do that? I have gotten better about finishing projects since I've been working on my YouTube channel, because you do have to finish projects to help people to see how they might work through them themselves. And but I don't know, in the years past, I get so distracted by other things. I love to design, and so as I'm working on a project, another idea would pop into my mind, and I think, oh, I got to stop and go get that started before I forget what it is I want to do, and well, you know the rest of that story. And I'm also a writer, as you might know. I have I started reading some of my own books in a series of Stitch Along with Lynda with a Good Book. And so I've been also working on that, also working on finishing another story that I've got started that's I'm really liking, and I would like to finish it. But of course, writing is a lengthy project. Sometimes it takes me 6 months or longer to, sometimes a year even, to finish a book, depending on what else I've got in my life going on. But and writing is something that if you love it, it's like stitching. You just have to do it occasionally. I hope you'll try out my series with I will just be in those series, just stitching on one of my own projects, and encourage you to grab one of yours and do the same. But we'll be listening to chapters or episodes of a book that I have previously recorded an audio for. And it's just kind of something to do when you're alone and you want to stitch, but you want to listen to something. And so you might try that. Like I said, I'm not a professional reader, but I'm a decent reader, so I think you'll like it. I just wanted to put some black on black, kind of anchor this piece, put me a little bit of depth of color in there, and draw a bit more attention to that area, and also attention to some stitching, because some of the stitching is just hard to identify except for this little part right there. This is just a little junk journal embellished paper clip that I made, and I just sewed it on. I thought that was cute. I like that. So many of if you make jewelry, you've got beautiful findings and beads and different things that you can always incorporate in your work. Here's your stitching. Use what you have. Of course, like I was telling you, all this is basically scraps. And y'all would be shocked if I said this was new stuff, wouldn't you? I would be too, to be honest. Because I have some new stuff, but it's still sitting on the shelf. It's going to become old stuff sooner or later, and then I'll work with it. And I really should have stitched this part before I put some of the embellishments on, but I got ahead of myself. Do you ever do that? Get ahead of yourself? Makes your job harder when you do that. Makes your stitching harder because you're trying to hold things that weren't intended to be held, like paper clips. I'm just liking that already, aren't you? It just, we just love our stitching, don't we? Like I said, I have an idea. I don't know if it'll work or not. I'm going to have to get finished and get further along in the other project before I can tell whether I can use this in it or not. But maybe sometime next year, after I get this finished, you'll see it again in another project. Who are some of your favorite slow stitching channels to watch? I have several on my watch list that I just enjoy. When I want to not work and just sit back, I have several that I really enjoy watching. Very talented people. Some of them are fiber artists. Some are heavy into junk journaling or art quilting. But I'm always open to new channels, so if you got a recommendation, drop it in the comments. It's good to have a variety of people that you watch because it broadens your scope. Sometimes the way one person works just doesn't work for you, But the next person may be doing the same thing, only a little differently, and it does work for you. And so that's a plus of watching more than one person too. And everybody has something to share. They may not think they do, but they do. They have their own talents and perspectives, and it's just nice to learn from them. And I never want to quit learning. When I quit learning, I think I will just lose my interest, because learning is what makes you, drives your spirit to try and do more. Of course, sometimes we don't sit down on a project to learn. We just want to enjoy what we're doing, and that's okay too. Today, in where I live in Northeast Texas, USA, it's about 60 degrees. The sun is shining, and the wind is up a little, and therefore the leaves are falling like snow. And my husband is working overtime, keeping the leaves raked up and cleaned up. Going to have to get up and clean the gutters pretty soon, because they're filling up with leaves. So what's the weather like in your area of the world? It's just so amazing when you think about it, that we live in different parts of the world, different parts of this huge planet we live on, and yet we can come to a platform like YouTube and just sit down and stitch together. Unbelievable. And if we want, through the comments and things, we can talk a little, share a little about our lives, experiences. It's just amazing. You know, at my age, technology is not my friend, but I do love parts of it, and that's one of the parts that I love, that we can be connected, even though we are disconnected by space so much, by miles, and sometimes we're disconnected by country and culture and all those things. But I love it, because when we come together on something like this, we find out we're just the same anyway. We're just people. We just love the same things. We don't have to be fighting and killing each other all the time. We could let's just sit on a sew together. You know, sometimes in life you just have to agree to disagree, but you do it with a smile and respect for that other person. Isn't that what we want ourselves? Oh, I'm liking that. Isn't that adding something to this? Yes, I think so. I'm glad I decided to do the curve also, because it just accentuates this part here. What do you have for lunch today? I fixed homemade vegetable soup. I cook pretty much every day during the week, and I'll save leftovers from those meals. And then about once a week, I'll make a big pot of vegetable soup, and I dump all my leftovers in it. Today I had corn and potatoes and black-eyed peas and something else. Can't remember what now, but anyway, I have those as leftovers vegetables, so those went in my soup. I used a hamburger base for meat. Seasoned it kind of like I seasoned my meatloaf, and it turned out so good. Well, I like that. Now, what do I want to do with this one? I'm thinking that I like the black. And what if we went ahead and kept it curved? Kind of like that. That might work. It's a long way to stretch, so I'm going to end this thread here and pick it back up. I usually split my floss into 2 threads. This I left in 3 strands because I wanted it to be a little heavier, make sure it showed up well, and that worked good. Let's see. Come across here where we picked up from that other one. I had a lady tell me that she draws or graphs out her projects beforehand, and I mean, she's just really organized, detailed that way. Oh no, I did it. And I'm thinking, wow, now that's a talent, but that's not for me. I've got to let the piece talk to me as I go. If I graph it out or decide all that beforehand, I feel like I'm forcing it to do what I want it to do. When actually, it's smarter than I am when it comes to what things need to be done. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. This fabric and these textiles and all these embellishments, they have a mind of their own. They know what they want to be. And you just get them out and play with them, and they will help you out by telling you that if you listen. But there's nothing wrong with the other way either. There's kind of two kinds of stitchers. The really organized, pre-planned one, and then the ones that does it by the seat of their pants, and I'm definitely a seat of their pants stitcher. I'm a seat of their pants writer. I don't outline a story and all of that before. I'll have a concept in my mind. I'll have a beginning in my mind, and I know pretty much where that ending is, but everything in between is not there. I create characters, I create a beginning, and then I let those characters grow, and they do the same thing this fabric and textiles do. They start talking to you, and they take over your story, and that's good because it's their story. But because of that, I write by the seat of my pants. I just start writing, and whatever happens, happens. sometimes I get in trouble because I try to make these characters do something I want them to do sometimes, and they get all upset with me, and they just do something terrible then. And then I have to figure it out and fix it, and they don't play nice with me sometimes. But you know what? That makes a good book, because you know, when you're writing by the seat of your pants, your readers most of the time don't know where in the heck you're going. Because when you're writing it, you don't know where the heck you're going. Unlike some well thought out and plotted books, you can figure them out all the way because it's just so well plotted and thought out. I'm liking this curve a lot. You know, sometimes, you have a tendency to get in a rut and you do the same thing over and over again. And my solution to that is, for instance, you want to come in and you think I'm going to stitch this horizontally or vertically. Well, you stop right there and you do something the opposite. For instance, you curve it. And if you come in and say, this has to go here, you stop and you say, no, it's going to go here. Just start doing the opposite of what your mind first tells you, because your mind gets in a habit, and it wants to play along the same path every time because it's a path it knows. And the only way to break that is to break the habit and do something different. Well, I have to load up some more thread. This is the part I don't like. Was nice to you. I did load, how many? 3 needles before I started, so I wouldn't be boring you to death loading needles all this time. That thread wasn't too twisty, so it separated pretty nice. This is a kind of a I hate it when I can't think of the word. The little ruffle thing, muslin ruffle, and it's just plain back there, and it's a ruffle and everything, but I think I'm gonna stitch it down too, and put some more stitches in here. The outside I'll leave alone, just in case what I think I can do with this I can't, and I might end up framing this piece. I need something out here to frame, and it's no sense in spending hours and hours stitching something you're going to cover up. So I'll just wait. But meantime, I am liking that. I like that a lot. That was a good idea. See if we can get this completed. I don't have a whole lot to go here. It's getting kind of late in the afternoon and the sun's beginning to go down. And I wonder, I start thinking about, okay, my husband and I, we don't really eat a heavy meal at night. We just kind of snack. But we like to spend some quality time together in the evening, talking to each other. And because he's busy. He does what he can outside all day. He tries to stay busy. And I'm doing my thing. And so that's our time to come together and do our thing. And I really enjoy that. I like hearing about his day. I like hearing about all his projects, some that went well, some that went not so well. He's always been a very industrious and busy man. And he's been retired for several years now. He's 81, but he works like a 41-year-old. And he just always busy. And sometimes he's into making things, and he creates some of the cutest homemade items for the yard and things. I just love it. And he just finished making me some flower boxes for my front yard that I can plant up next spring. And anyway, we like to spend some time in the evening. But then he's an early to rise person, so he likes to go to bed pretty early too, and I am just the opposite. So it gives me a lot of evening hours that I can use stitching after he goes to bed. And so I'm always in the afternoon time, like now, trying to line out, okay, what am I going to work on this evening? And I'm kind of glad that I decided to pick up a few of my UFOs, because I don't really have to think about or dream up a project. I can just work on them. Just a little bit more to go. This little piece of bot trim went in there cute, didn't it? Whoops. You know, something like this, of course, I didn't have this pre-planned. I didn't know how this was going to be stitched out. Just because I put a curved triangle in here type embellishment, I didn't at the time think, okay, now that's got to have curved stitching or anything like that. It's just when I picked it up and started thinking about what I wanted to do, that's what the piece said to me. It said, look, I'm curved right here. Why don't you keep on stitching a curve? So I listened. And I'm liking it. Now, sometimes these textiles don't know what they're talking about, and they give me advice, and I take it, and it's terrible. And but I have to say that 95% of the time, they're right. So I forgive them for that few other 5% when they take me down the wrong path. And you know another thing about that? There's always somebody to blame for what doesn't work besides yourself. It was the textiles' fault. That's what they said. I have some granddaughters that when they were little, oh, they would sit with a needle and thread and stitch with me for hours. Now they don't stitch at all. But you know what? When you're in the prime of your life and you're busy and you're growing a family and everything, you're working, you understand that that goes by the wayside. But the thing that comforts me is that I spent time with them, I taught them things, and those things someday they may use. And as they get older and have more time for that, maybe they'll be stitching and thinking about the days that they spent with me doing the same. That's a very comforting thought. So let's teach this younger generation while they're little, before they get so busy or so distracted, they forget there's needle and thread in the world. What do you think? I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Boy, doesn't your eye go straight to that stitching and follow it around? I think that's so good. Sometimes you can use your stitching. Let's say you put a focal point right there. Sometimes you can pre-plan to like bring your stitches down and around and bring your stitches down and over. And those stitches, your eyes follow them right to your focal point. And the person looking at it doesn't really realize they're being directed, but that stitching is directing them to where you want them to go. Primarily spend most of their time observing something particular that you made. Okay, we're going to hold this here, and there'll be a part 2 of this, and we'll finish up the rest of the stitching, and we'll complete this UFO in 2023. Thank you for being with me. Until next time, stay scrap happy.